formation to taxation, covering inflation, temptation, high expectations, and that dreaded stagnation. We bring to you Hip Nation.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of our Hip Nation podcast. And this week's episode is titled Impostor Syndrome. We have two super awesome chicks here today. I have one special co-host named Jenny Popoff, and our guest today is Julie Turner, who works at a local float house. Or float, I don't know, what do you call it? Float station?
I usually say Float Studio.
Ooh,
Float
station.
House is actually the name of a franchise location.
Let's not do that.
Not a float house.
I like Float House. It's like the house of float.
Right?
Right?
Badass. Okay, that was my bad. I should have known that.
Yeah, do some research, eh?
Yeah, shit. We're like 25 seconds in and I already fucked up. That's awesome.
That makes me feel a lot better.
Good.
I'm going to fuck up royally.
So I'm going to pass it over to Jenny to introduce herself as my co-host today.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks for introducing me so I could reintroduce myself.
Tell us who you are.
I'm Jenny. I'm a local photographer. I own Exposed Moments. I've struggled with imposter syndrome pretty much my entire life. So for people who don't know, I am gay, just a big old homo over here. I can say it because I am one.
And we love you. Anyways.
So we can get more into what my experience is with it. And
we will.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Yeah, let's go deep.
Oh, yeah. We're going all the way.
It's been a while since I've done that. With that awkward note, let's just move on to the House Afloat.
Okay. And before I pass it over to Julie, I have to introduce two things. Just a reminder that last week we started doing a code word contest.
Cool.
So for 4 weeks, all the listeners are to collect a code word that we mention at some point in the podcast, and you'll know because I'll say this is your code word.
So don't just randomly blurt out the word.
I'm sure.
I know it, I'm gonna
actually, now that we know the word, we're probably going to talk about it many times during this podcast, but that's okay. You won't know it until I actually say this is your code word. And at the end of the 4 episodes, I'll put a call out on our social medias, and you can submit your code words via DM. You can just slide right in those DMs.
Ooh, had a few of those.
And you'll be
done a few of those.
Oh, this is going to be
slippery
fun.
out there.
And then once the deadline happens, then we'll do a draw for a $250 Hip Nation gift basket that includes a hoodie, a t-shirt, set of headphones, Spotify gift card, and a Hip Nation pop socket.
Cool.
And the other thing I must mention, because I keep forgetting to say this at every episode, is that we now have a donate button on every episode. So if you listen to an episode and you love what you hear and you thought it was helpful in any way, smash that donate button. Oh my God, I sound like a loser YouTuber.
Smash it. Just smash the shit out of it.
Just smash it. Even if it's $1, every little bit helps so that we can upgrade our equipment, and then eventually we can have more microphones and more people in here and maybe even video one day. So all the donations are appreciated, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Julie, tell us who you are.
I'm Julie. I'm Julie Turner. I own Ogo Float, a 2-tank float center here in town. And I have no business doing a podcast because I feel like an imposter here.
That was a perfect intro. Oh, I just spit. Whoops.
This was the one time I felt like I wasn't an imposter because I've had to deal with it my entire life. And I said to my fiance, I was like, this is the one time I feel like I can go in there confidently and just speak from experience and, you know, go with what I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just a precursor to this episode, all three of us suffer from podcast syndrome. from imposter syndrome. So
Good.
I think we're gonna have a really good discussion here.
And a secret handshake at the end or something.
Ooh.
Hey? Yeah.
For like us, like an imposter handshake.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Have you guys seen that show, Imposters? On
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. It's a good show.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Actually, when I said I was coming to do this, my partner says, imposter syndrome? You mean like when you think your loved ones aren't who they say they are? And I'm like, I don't have much to speak about on that one. So no, not that one.
Clearly, he's got some other issues going on.
It's funny you say that though, because it comes in with like relationships, with body image, with jobs, with like just anything, right? So we can definitely get into that for sure.
Yeah. For you two? Where does it rear its ugly head the most? Is it like a work thing or like a relationship thing? Or?
I think when my imposter syndrome first started was when I was young, like coming out gay or growing up gay. Before I came out, I felt like I was an imposter in the straight world. So I've struggled with it literally since like I was born with it.
Absolutely.
Baby, I was born this way. So yeah, and then obviously like with work and stuff like that, and I think when you're into like doing creative stuff, basically like my job is based on the approval of others. So it's definitely, it's in different aspects totally. And then feeling like you're a good enough partner, like my fiance is freaking gorgeous. So just not knowing if I can measure up with that too. Do you know what I mean?
God.
Like it's always, yeah, you know what I mean? Like
I
it's
do
just
know what you
always
mean.
there. It's always there. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. But yeah.
I just saw a meme recently and it was like, my wife is so much better looking than me that the grocery till clerk put a divider between our groceries.
Wow. Definitely getting called out.
Right?
Yeah.
Julie, what about you?
I mean, various times throughout life for sure. I think getting into business, like this is the first business I've ever owned. So, learning on the fly. And
Yes.
so sometimes the networking events, everybody there seems like they know what they're doing. And I sometimes feel like, I
don't think any of us know what I mean, you got some seasoned people that for sure have been around the block, but I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And I don't even really like being there.
Well, and also because I'm, I like a lot of control. So I do and I'm also cheap. So I do a lot of my own graphic design. So then I remember I laugh at this, but I got brochures done from Sarah here. And she posted a picture of them on the socials and she was like, Julie designed these. I just printed them. And I just thought it was like, to me, it made me laugh that like, you were like, that's not mine. I didn't design that. Yeah. And I laughed. I thought that was great. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll totally take it. I designed that 100%.
For sure.
And I like that control of it. But when I'm doing graphic design stuff, again, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I just like make stuff up and I'm like, yeah, it looks good to me. Let's roll with it.
You do a fairly decent job. And I mean that. And when I say things like that on my socials, it's because I want to give credit where credit is due. But I could see how that could be mistaken for me being like, well, fuck that, I didn't do this mess.
That's not my
that's
shit.
That's not what I mean by it at all. And if it was bad, I wouldn't put it on my socials.
Fair enough.
Because that's my name going out there too, right? In a way. So you're fine. Don't worry about that. So I was doing some research online. Some Googling.
I thought you were going to say in the library or something. Like,
I thought you were taking surveys of people, like asking them about their imposter
I don't read
syndrome.
Bitch, I don't read books. That was a funny meme from yesterday. Anyway.
Okay.
Researchers apparently believe that up to 70% of people have suffered from imposter syndrome at one point or another. And when I read that, that number is staggering to me.
It's staggering, and it's 75% of those people, of that 70%, are women. That's just
Really?
like another fun fact.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Men do.
Shit.
They have different, they got different issues that they have to deal with, but most of it is women. I think just, being in a society that, with men dominating in a lot of industries and stuff, and you know what I mean? So.
And I think a lot of it comes from feelings of not enough self-worth.
Yeah, it's absolutely tied to your sense of love and self-worth.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because like there's some really, really confident people out there who have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I made a list of
You did. The one that shocked me was like Tina Fey and
Right?
Tom Hanks. Like that's
Right?
it's crazy. They're so successful. You look at, and I think that's the difference too, is like knowing and feeling. So you know that you have these accomplishments and you've been recognized, but then you just feel like you're going to get called out, and someday somebody's going to like come at you with like, you're not as good as I thought you were. Right. So,
and it
it's
like
feeling and knowing.
it plays into every single, like for me it's a business thing. It's what I do, my graphic design, blah blah blah. And it's every decision I make, that reel is playing in my head that someone's going to find out I'm a fake. And I know I'm not a fake.
Yeah.
And I get lots of accolades about what good work I do.
Yep. Yeah.
But it just doesn't click
go away.
inside my head. And
No.
yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of it is too, like you're comparing your weaknesses, and that's what I do. I look at other photographers and other, you know what I mean? Like, and I compare my weaknesses to their strengths. So, and I think social media can really play a huge part in that, where you're seeing the best of the best. They're always putting their best foot forward. And I do that too with my business, with my photography, social media. I'm always putting my best pictures out there, but I'm looking at my worst ones when I'm editing and going, oh shit, like this guy just did this amazing photo with this chick and mine just, this is my shittiest work compared to his best work. So I think that can also be a little bit detrimental, right? That's exactly what imposter syndrome is.
It is. Comparison is the killer of everything.
But it's your weaknesses versus their strengths, and you have to like do a lot of self-talk with that shit, man.
I think it also stems back to what I believe is the disease of being busy. You know, like you go on social media or anywhere and it's like hustle. You just got to work hard or everything's going to be better. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think we always need to be busy like this. Like, I don't think this is what we're supposed to be doing with our lives. You know, it's just working ourselves to the bone. Like, so my whole job and like the whole purpose of my life now is getting people to relax harder, right?
Yeah.
And take yourself out of the disease of being busy and just be.
Have you done a float?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to float all the time.
It's really freaking cool. Hey, like for people who don't know what it is, like you just
you should. Let's give you a moment to just talk about because it does play into this and like the whole like relax and self-love and take care of yourself.
And acknowledging those, taking the time to acknowledge those moments when they happen.
Yes.
It's starting to be that people know what float tanks are now, which is really cool. But I do have the elevator spiel.
Yes,
like a
let's
huge
do it.
tub with less than a foot of water and nearly 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. So you float weightlessly on the surface like a cork. There's many different styles of tanks, but generally the idea is you turn the lights off, the sound off, and just let your senses take a great big pause. So the idea is no lights, no sound, no sense of touch. You know, the water is maintained at the same temperature as your skin, so it's not sending signals to your brain to interpret hot, cold, shiver, sweat. It's just neutral. So you kind of lose track of where the water begins and your body ends. And it's a really quiet, meditative space for thinking about things like imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. And you've done one, yeah?
I've done one, yeah. I want to do it again, and I want to get good at it because I found when I did it, I had so much time to overthink stuff. So, and you and I discussed it that time, and you said like, you know, it's like a practice. You have to come in and do it on, you know, a regular basis until you get good at it. And then you can shut your brain off. Because I was just like, I had too much time to think of a million different things. And I impostered freaking all over the place that day.
Like I remember the first maybe 2 or 3 times. The first time for sure, I got out halfway to check my phone.
Yeah.
Which is like, you shouldn't be doing that shit in there.
Should start collecting phones when you come in.
You should. You should.
Yeah.
You should. Yeah. I think my mom was messaging me trying to figure out something to do with her TV or her remote or something, and I left my watch on, my Apple Watch, so it was buzzing the whole time, right?
Oh yeah.
So, God, Mom, really? Right now?
Yep.
Yeah, I had one lady that she's like, I remembered to turn off my phone, but I forgot about my Fitbit, and I just sat on the top of the tank being like, walk me.
Oh shit. Yeah.
You're normally more active by this time of day.
What the hell are you doing with your life?
You're binge watching Yellowstone right now, you piece of shit.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, it definitely is like a practice. Hey, like the first few times for sure, I was bouncing off the walls, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah, you should be more relaxed than this, and then you keep telling yourself that, and then you feel like I'm not good enough at floating, and here's my imposter syndrome.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely a practice, and it gets better the more you do it. And every single time you float is different. Like, I've been in there hundreds of times, and like, I mean, there'll be themes. Like, sometimes I'll be really in my body, and like, you know, having conversations with, oh, my toe, like, or sometimes I'm really like in my head, or like, there's kind of themes, but they're always different. You never know what you're gonna get. And so the expectation of wanting to go in and shut off your brain. Yeah. I mean, your brain's not gonna shut off. That should never be the goal. Yeah. So you just need to learn to work with it, right? And reframe that and direct it in a way that's constructive to what you want that day. Right. So it's always different.
Yeah.
You know what? My favorite time floating, I had 2 times that were my favorite.
Did
the
you
first
do it with
one
a
was no, that would be fun.
It is fun.
I bet it is. My favorite time was when you allowed me to put music on in the tank, and it was my own playlist. Oh. And I put on like some Pink Floyd and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome. And then the second time I had the music, plus I had a weed gummy. Oh. And I was like literally in space. Yeah. I felt like there were stars around me, and I could see planets, and like it was a trip.
No way.
A real trip.
So how was it when you came out? Like, when she comes out looking like that, do you just give her a minute and say like, I'll talk to you tomorrow, or just text me when you get home?
Oh, I'm certain there's some people that have to be like, sit down, you're not driving home. Like, just hang out for a little bit. Like some people, and I mean sober, like not with the weed gummy. Some people just come out like, they look like they're high. They're just in a blissful, completely
float glow or something.
We call it post float glow.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so I'm like, you just hang out and drink some water for a little bit, and
you can probably see it written all over their faces. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, because we all suffer from this, which is, I call it debilitating. Mm-hmm. For me, it's debilitating. Mm-hmm. A lot of my day is spent thinking about this.
Right.
So I thought it might be cool to come up with some tips for coping with. I don't think that there's necessarily a cure unless there's some magic way to just all of a sudden fully love yourself. And, that takes a lot of work.
Right, if you could just hit the switch and be like, I'm going to be confident as fuck today and I'm going to kill it. But
yeah, and there are days that are better than others, right?
For sure.
Some days you don't think about it. For me anyway, I don't think about it as much, but it's definitely always there.
Yeah.
So the first coping mechanism is we by the way, I got this from a website called blog.hubspot.com/marketing/imposter-syndrome-tips for anyone that wants to check it out themselves.
Well, can you repeat that?
No, one time only.
If I may, maybe before we talk about the tips, how do you know when you're feeling? How do you identify when you're feeling, oh, I'm feeling like an imposter?
Let's talk about that right now.
Yeah.
So these are the signs right here. And there are more. This is just a brief summary of some things that you can ask yourself to know if you have it. First one is, do you chalk your success up to luck, timing, or computer error?
100%.
Guilty.
Luck for sure. Like, I think, growing up in Penticton too, is just like, it's Penticton. It's who you know. So did I just book this client because they think I'm a good photographer, or because they know my name, or they've seen me on social media?
Like, oh my God.
Are you booking me because you've seen my personal Instagram page, or are you booking me because you've gone to my photography pages, or are you booking me because you know my mom, or because you think I'm an actual good photographer, right? Like, that's where I really struggle with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. It's always just like, how did this person hear about me? Surely it was a referral from somebody else.
Did you just call me Shirley? Don't call me Shirley.
Oh, Jenny. So a referral in and of itself is a compliment, but people who have this just don't see it that way. We're like, oh, well, that was just a reason. It's not because I'm good. Mm-hmm. It's because someone likes me or thinks I'm cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They just want to hang.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does that one resonate with you, Julie, too?
Yeah, definitely. I can see it. Luck and timing. I don't usually chalk success up to computer error. Lack of success to computer error, but yeah, definitely.
And maybe not as, for me, it's not as much computer error as it is just knowing the programs that I'm working with. I chalk a lot of it up to, well, I'm just really good at Illustrator.
Well, even just earlier today, I said Canva templates.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yeah. And
God, I love Canva.
for the record,
yeah, can we get sponsored?
Ew.
Don't you hate it?
I hate it when people use Canva for logo design.
Yeah.
That's what I hate. Feel free to use Canva for all your social media posts, like business cards even. I don't care, but it's not a logo design tool and should not be used. That's a whole nother thing I could get into. Anyway. Second way to identify this. Do you believe if I can do it, anybody can?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I've been told that so many times too by people who don't know what goes into, the equipment, the education, everything with my photography. It's that like I've had friends say, "Well, I'll just get a camera and you can just teach me a few things or whatever," right? So being like hearing that over and over again, you start to go, well, maybe they could do that, right? Like, and maybe they could do it better than me. Like, have I just put all this work into my art and somebody else can just come along and do it anyway, which, yeah.
Yeah, there's a really funny Instagram reel about that.
Is there?
Where it's like anytime you see the bride's uncle taking photos at the
Don't
wedding.
get me
Yeah,
started
right?
on
Yeah.
that.
I forget what the reaction was, but yeah, it's funny.
Everybody's a professional with these, yeah.
And this one is like plays right into what we were just talking about with Canva. Like everybody thinks that just because they have Photoshop, they can do what I do.
Or a Cricut,
Or a Cricut.
right?
And Cricuts are awesome, but they're not, I mean, they're a different level, I guess. They're for like home crafty people.
Yeah. I think with Julie, with yours, it's, I couldn't do that for sure. Like, there's no way. Like, I've seen what you're cleaning your tanks and everything the other day. And it was just, there's so much that goes into it. And your house has been like completely redesigned in order to accommodate this. So do you feel that, like, does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I do think anybody can do it. Like, I look around at other people in my profession and that, do it better than me, of course. Yeah, like and we can get into this too about some of the signs, but some of the tips to deal with it. But it's helpful for me to reach out to other people, whether they be, far superior to me or maybe just starting out. But it is a unique industry that I'm in for sure.
Well, and how many times do you have people come to you and be like, I can just take a bath at my house, right? Like,
I've installed it in my bath. I'm like, 800 pounds of it?
yeah.
Like, you literally could not dissolve that amount of salt in your tub.
Yeah.
And like also, those tanks used to be called sensory deprivation tanks. You can't get that experience at home. You can't just shut off the lights and close the door and get that same experience.
Well,
You
also,
can't.
when you're in the tub, either like your top is up or your knees are out, or you're the other way. Like,
yeah,
tubs aren't big.
there's
right?
no great way to
But
tub.
float tanks,
Unless you're at
huge.
like Sparkling Hill and you can just like duck right under
Right.
these big tubs.
But
that
even
are
then, you're
for
not
two.
floating.
No.
Right?
No.
Well, and the other important thing is the temperature, right? So the float tanks maintain the same temperature. It's very consistent. Whereas like your bath at home, you fill it up real hot, and within a few minutes you're like, ooh, this is cold now.
Yeah, for
Time
sure.
to start again.
So I think when they're saying this, if I can do it, anybody can, that kind of falls into like anytime someone diminishes what you're doing because they have access to something similar. And that's gross. Like,
Yeah.
and it's rude and disrespectful.
Oh, 100%.
But at the same time, I'm sure we've all done that inadvertently
Absolutely.
too. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it probably really only applies to people who are professionals and have studied what they do more than 10,000 hours, right?
Yeah.
Like you always say, 10,000 hours makes you an expert.
Yeah. 10,000.
But like even teachers, right? Like how many times do people just, even through COVID, like all the kids are being taught online now and shit. And the teachers are probably like, well, that's a slap in my face.
Oh, yeah.
Like I went to school for this.
Yeah. Probably a
And-
good realization for a lot of parents, though. Like,
Yeah.
they thought that they could do it better than the teacher.
Absolutely, right?
Go ahead, asshole.
Yeah.
Deal with your kid.
Go ahead.
He's just like you.
Well, and I find one of the ways that I identify when I'm feeling like an imposter is I will procrastinate the projects that I don't
Yeah.
feel qualified to do.
Totally.
I will put it
Really?
off as long as I can until it's like, okay, now I got to do that.
Yeah. You got to listen to your your energy and everything, right? Like your body, I feel it emotionally, I feel it physically. If I'm not into a project, it's like pushing a rock up a hill. And that's one of how I cope with it and try to deal with it, is I recognize what sets my soul on fire and like what gets me motivated. And if I feel like there's a project that I'm not motivated about, I won't take that on again. I won't make that my niche. I'll stick more to what I do with the boudoir and then some of the corporate stuff and the product photography. So, but yeah, weddings don't set my soul on fire, so I stay the hell away from them.
Yeah. And like, it's okay to be specialized in something.
Yeah.
You know, like if somebody asks me to design a vintage logo, I'm going to be like, fuck that. That's not my style.
Go do it on Canva.
Right? Most likely what I would do is hire a colleague to take that on.
Yeah.
Because I do have to be very versatile in my job, but there's just some styles that, like, my style is very modern and current. And so to design something that's very old fashioned looking, like I couldn't do my best work.
Right. Yeah. So you'd feel like a super imposter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, like I know how to do it. It just I wouldn't feel it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel right putting it out there to somebody.
It's not good vibrations, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No good vibrations.
God, I love a good vibration.
Jenny. So, next one. Do you agonize over even the smallest flaws in your work?
Oh yeah, 100%. I do. Oh,
Definitely.
definitely. Yeah, I will sit and edit somebody's eyeball until it's freaking perfect, and it's like, just let it go, because then you're overdoing it sometimes, right? And it just looks like a freaking cartoon. Yeah. So yeah.
I do this a lot when I'm like writing blogs or newsletters or things. Like I enjoy writing, but I'm really critical of it. When I read my stuff, it was once described in my writing was like a high school girl's diary, and I was like, yeah, that very accurately describes my writing style. So like, lean into it, right? So now I've called my blog on my website my float journal, because it is kind of like my journal, right? It is, and kind of lean into the taking that criticism and like
lean into it. That's a good coping mechanism.
It is.
Lean into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like laugh at it.
Yeah.
If you have to.
Yeah.
You know? Like
Name it and claim it.
Sometimes when so many things are like just absolute shit, like you're just having a really bad day or week or month or year, just start singing the Friends song. At some point you just have to laugh, right? And it's so good to be able to laugh at yourself.
Well, I know, like MailChimp, right? When you send a newsletter, it's like got this monkey with this button. It's like, are you ready to send this? And it's so like daunting. It's like, I'm gonna push the button. I'm gonna push the button.
Even the monkey knows I'm an imposter.
Exactly.
Fuck you, monkey.
Like monkeys are probably the biggest imposters ever. They just copy what everyone else does, right?
I've never thrown my shit personally.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I used to be very, very critical of my work.
Yeah.
And then I did a lot of work to correct that behavior.
Yeah.
So I this actually doesn't apply to me anymore.
Nice.
But I've had many bosses who were very critical of my work in the past before I was a business owner.
Yeah.
To the point where they'd be like, can you move that line over by like a hair?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no.
Can you go fuck yourself?
Right? Like that literal 0.5 millimeter.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Yeah.
And then they, sometimes they would insist. So I'd be like, okay, I'll do it. And then they walk away and then just put it back. Like, you're never going to notice.
You really are an imposter, you sneaky
0.5
bugger.
millimeter? Really? Do you know how small that is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, frig.
Yeah. Frig.
Frig.
Frig off.
Frig right off, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next sign. Are you crushed by even constructive criticism, seeing it as evidence of your ineptness?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Well, I mean, like that's definitely just like I was saying about the blog, right? Like,
Yeah.
lean into it.
Yeah. Well, and with your 0.5 millimeter thing, it's just like, they say that sucks or what, like you need to move that 0.5 millimeter, and you're going, well, they hate the whole fucking thing now. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm just going to start on something else and come back to it or whatever, or just give up on it. That's like, I'm all or nothing. So if I'm not 100% good at something, then I won't even do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've developed very thick skin over the years, but definitely in the beginning, it was like, what? You don't like the font I picked? I'm going to cry myself to sleep, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Now I'm just like, oh, I don't actually care. Yeah. So like I think I'm slowly getting over it.
You are, holy cow.
But the thick skin is definitely something that I recommend people get.
Let her roll off.
Because a lot of times, like, even think about yourself when you criticize somebody. If it's purely meant as constructive criticism,
right?
You're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. You're trying to help them.
Yeah.
And when they don't see it as help and they take it as a personal attack, that can be like soul crushing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess it's for me, it's like trying to tell people, like, we're trying to help you. And like I might be hiring a junior designer pretty soon. And I'm like terrified of giving anybody criticism because I know how it feels as a junior designer to be like, that sucks.
Just like communicate it, right? Like communication is it's key. So just say what your intentions are and what you're doing and acknowledge that you've been there. I think that would help because
it's true.
It's hard for me to take criticism from somebody. Like my fiance and I will fight because she thinks that there's something that I should do differently with a picture. She hasn't done the courses, the stuff that I've done to get to the point that I'm at. So it's hard. That's where we struggle. Like that's where we'll fight is because I can't. It's just, to me, she's just being a dick. It's not like coming from an educated background on how to edit something or whatever, right? So that's when I'm like, you're not telling me this out of constructive criticism. You're just doing it to be an asshole. And that's where I have to change my mindset is like, she's looking at it just like any other person would with just like just a normal eye. Whereas I'm overanalyzing it now. So so it is more beneficial to have her just looking at it like everybody else does and giving me her constructive criticism.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
Neither did I till now. Oh God, I hope she doesn't listen to this.
And she's listening.
The shit out of it.
She's gonna be like, "Don't embarrass me, Jenny."
No, she's gonna be like, "I was right, Jenny." Again.
Yeah. Write that down in the book.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you like with criticism, Julie?
I mean, I can get kind of sensitive sometimes. It depends who it's coming from, right? Like,
that's true too.
I'm more likely from a family member to dismiss, but to take criticism better, right? Than maybe like somebody stranger, somebody like that doesn't know me or doesn't know what I'm doing is like, oh, have you ever thought of like using less salt or like sea salt or like,
do people say that?
Oh yeah.
Like you don't know what the fuck you're doing?
They're like, oh yeah, you should add this. And yeah, people have some interesting ideas sometimes.
Really?
But I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Shit.
Cool. The next one is, when you do succeed, do you secretly feel like you fooled them again?
I don't know if I would say I fooled them. Like that doesn't quite resonate.
No.
That is 100% me. That's the biggest one for me. Yeah, for sure.
I think it did when I was younger and nobody could tell or nobody called me out for being gay. I think I felt like I was fooling people.
Oh,
I had my good days and my bad days, and even depending on what I wore. Like if I was, if I looked like just a girl in general, like more feminine, then I would feel like I got away with something for sure. Nobody could call me out for being gay. But now you look at me and it's just like, she's 100-footer. You could tell from 100 feet away. She's not a lipstick. She's a chapstick.
Oh my God. Your fiance, Lucy, told me to never use the word chapstick, by the way. She said that's a swear word.
Oh my God. She's a makeup artist, so she would say that. Yeah. But I live for the chapstick.
I love chapstick. She's like, no, you need to go to this store and buy this like $30 lip stuff. And I'm like, I'm poor. Not happening.
Yeah. If I did that, I'd look like a clown. I'd have it all the way up to my freaking eyeballs, man. I just want my smile a little bit bigger.
That's amazing.
With the chapstick.
Got the Joker.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I was telling her she was doing my makeup once, and I was like, I just use chapstick or whatever. She's like, oh, that's a swear word. Get out. And I'm like, actually, it's not chapstick, it's blistex. And she's like, seriously, get out. With her English accent.
So you would be a blistex lesbian. In the winter, I'm more of a blistex lesbian. In the summer,
but I'm committed. I use that shit every day. That's hilarious. I want to remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one we have was, do you worry that it's just a matter of time before you're found out?
It's kind of the definition of the imposter syndrome, right? Like you're seeking that external validation.
Totally. Yeah.
When you get for the two of you, when you get that external validation, does it resonate?
Sometimes it feels like going back to like, I just got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it does. Depends who it's coming from. If I hear it from like a photographer who I respect and love their work, then it's really cool. It's a cool feeling for sure.
Yeah.
But
I imagine when you hear it from the experts, that's a way better feeling than if you hear it from someone who doesn't know all the ins and outs of what you do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, yeah. that's
it all comes back to a sense of wanting to fit in, right? And so, like, when you said 70% of people, I was surprised it's not 100.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want to fit in a certain, we're built that way, like socially.
Right. It's in our DNA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so trying to fit in and trying to be part of something is, I think, universal. So I was surprised.
That 30% are just imposters in the imposter syndrome.
They're just denying
spectrum. They're super imposters. Fuckers. Just admit it. Stop impostoring.
Exactly.
And they're probably dudes too.
Yeah,
dudes don't
absolutely.
admit stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's get in on that. I'll become the man-hating lesbian now. Let's do a whole podcast on that.
We probably could. Okay, so I wrote something down here that I found from. There's a book called "The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women: Why Capable People Suffer from Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive in Spite of It." And what I wrote down is an excerpt from that book that says, "Pay attention to your language choices."
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? I think the previous points that we just talked about, that was from that book. This is something else. So I'm just going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your language choices, both when you're talking to other people and when you're talking to yourself, especially when it comes to talking about work. If you find your own success or the praise others give you uncomfortable, do some reflective thinking on where those types of thoughts came from and what it means in your professional life, which I personally think is really good advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I also have, because I suffer from this so hard, I have a hard time with like affirmations, like I am statements.
Right, yeah.
Like I just don't buy into them.
Yeah.
And I've tried. I even have an app on my phone that pops up
Me
a
too.
new I am statement, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, every hour.
Yeah.
And I read it and I'm like, oh, that's bullshit. And I might even like repeat it a few times.
Yeah.
And
Trying
I
to get
tried
into
the whole,
it.
like, every morning I wake up and do the I ams. I did that for a few months and I
Yeah.
really committed to it.
Yeah. Trying to
And
make it a
still
lifestyle.
at the end, I was just like, I still don't believe it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I know there's an I am affirmations that I've listened to in the float tank, and it's interesting because, like the first time I listened to it, like I had no idea what they were gonna say, right? There wasn't, and listening to it, and they repeat a few of them. But as I'm listening to it, there's a few that like make me, like some of them I'm like, yeah, I am that, and then some just like make me squirmy, right? Like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. But then I can identify, ooh, that's an area that I need to like work on.
Just call
right?
yourself out.
So sometimes even if the I ams don't feel right, that's still information that you've learned.
Yeah.
Shit. Nice one.
You just blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah. Mind blasting.
Wow.
Good one.
Damn, Julie.
Yeah.
Fuck, just coming in here blowing minds.
It's so early in the morning too. God.
It is for me.
Early for a good blow like that.
Fucking Jenny with the innuendos, always.
All the time. I know people are just shaking their heads right now. I know exactly who is. With compliments though, like in your, just not with work and stuff like that, just like in your general life, like do you guys deal well with those? Like or do you blow them off, or do you I find like even when somebody says, oh, I like your shirt or your toque or whatever. Thanks. I got it at Tim Hortons, only $10. Or right? You always feel like
30.
you need to
The
say,
Tim Beams toque was $30. Thank you very much.
you got to discount it. You can't just say thank you. And that's what I'm trying to be more aware of.
Yes.
It's just like saying like, oh, thanks. But normally I'm like, oh, fuck no. Like, you're way better looking than I am. Or you got like, you know what I mean? Like, or you're funnier.
Deflecting.
Whatever. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Put that shit back on somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Like, take the attention off of me, because you're going to look deeper at me and realize that I'm not actually like as cool as you think I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually spent $50 on this toque and not 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
And I think there is a little section about that later on in the podcast. Within these tips that we're talking about, I think it talks more about that a little bit later.
Okay, cool.
Second tip is knowing that you're not alone. And we touched on this a little bit already, but we made a list of a few well-known celebrities who suffer from imposter syndrome. And that list is David Bowie, Tom Hanks, Serena Williams, Natalie Portman, Emma Watson, and Tina Fey. And I actually have a few quotes from a couple of them. I know Emma Watson has talked about this very publicly.
Has she? Yeah.
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 Yeah, she's, I think, maybe even at an awards thing.
Oh,
She
okay.
maybe has talked about it.
Yeah.
But of the quotes that I wrote down, I really just wanted to read this first one, which was from author, poet, and civil rights activist Maya Angelou. Everybody's heard of Maya Angelou. The quote goes like this: "I've written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody, and they're going to find me out." Like, for someone like Maya Angelou to say something like that after having written 11 successful books, like, damn.
Yeah. It's the difference between knowing and feeling, right?
Right.
Like, you know that you've written 11 books, but you're still feeling like you're an imposter. It's fucking sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
Right? It's
Yep.
sad.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a good tip, though, to know that you're not alone in any problem that you have, because often that is the problem, that you feel alone in something.
Yeah.
And chances are you aren't.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare that someone has a unique problem.
Yeah. Well, and Tom Hanks saying that he feels like a fraud, and that one day everybody's just going to realize it and take everything away from him.
Yeah, that
Having
was
everything
a good
taken away
line
from you,
too.
like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a shitty feeling, definitely. And when you make, like, in business, and this is your livelihood, you're always like, did I make the right decision? Is this going to be a good year for me? Is this a good move for my business? And then just always having like that worry, and then worrying that somebody's just going to come and shut it right down. And then you have to go back to your shitty job working for somebody else who you fucking hate.
Yeah.
Right? I'd rather just hate myself than
Right?
everybody else. Yeah.
You know what? Even like this past week, like kind of the first couple weeks of January have been very slow for my business, like very slow, which it's actually been kind of nice because I don't feel like my hair is blowing straight back.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, there's this constant loop in my head going like, do people just not like me anymore? Am I not donating enough money to the community? Like, is my product shit? Did everybody take their t-shirts that they bought for Christmas home and wash them and all the graphics fell? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But really, that has nothing to do with it. It's just
It's just a slow time.
a slow time of year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make some reels.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of that lately.
Yeah.
Okay, tip number 3. Julie, you want to take tip number 3?
Sure.
Do you have it there?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Distinguish humility and fear. There's taking humility in your hard work and accomplishments, and then there's feeling overcome with fear because of them. Sometimes simply being good at something can cause it to discount its value.
Okay, so I wanted to talk really briefly about a cool example of this. So I used to play a ton of guitar. I still could, but I don't.
We should start a band.
No. Amanda's already approached me about that. I'm like, no, not
Join the
happening.
Amanda and Randy band, the Elevation band.
I love my guitar. It hangs on the wall in my office, but I just don't play anymore. But when I did play, Slash was my favorite guitar player of all time. Still is. And so I listened to a lot of Guns N' Roses in my guitar playing days, and I would learn some of GNR songs, like some of my faves.
Cool.
But I would never learn the solo, because the one time that I learned a guitar solo,
Yeah.
I then was like, oh, well, now the song isn't as cool because I know how to play it.
Yeah.
It's so much cooler when you don't know, like, the intricacies of how hard someone worked to write that song or solo or do the thing.
Yeah.
So that was my example of sometimes simply being good at something can cause it to discount its value.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's a good one.
So it says, it all boils down to feeling unworthy. Seth Godin put in a blog post, when you feel unworthy, any kind response, positive feedback, or reward feels like a trick, a scam, or a luck of the draw.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just got lucky.
Yeah.
I got lucky.
Or like, in my case, I just keep telling myself, I'm just really good at marketing myself. Which I should just see as a compliment in itself to myself, but I don't. I just think I'm good at putting myself out there, and
Or like literally
not
there's
really my
nobody else
work.
in town that does what I do. Like I
Yeah.
am the only person in
Yeah,
town. so
you
they have
really
to come
are.
to
Am I
me.
ever lucky?
right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you don't have an oversaturated market or a saturated market at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
sometimes it's like, oh well, they're only coming here because I'm the only place. If they were somewhere else, maybe they would go somewhere
shit.
else.
Right. Shit, man. Fuck.
Does that?
Embrace your competition. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez, you're just a mind blower.
I must have woke up real early this morning. Holy cow.
Do you struggle with that a lot? Do you think those thoughts?
Not as much now. But sometimes definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's some clients that I'll be honest, I don't want. Like
Yeah.
they're not my ideal clients.
for sure.
And so
For sure.
I wish I had somewhere to refer people sometimes that don't vibe with me.
Yeah,
and there's some people that
Yes.
like, I'm sure like we're talking a small town, there's bound to be people in the town that just don't like me. And that's totally fair. But they might be avoiding floating, something that it might actually help them, but they don't want to come because they're going to have to deal with me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
right.
So it would be nice if there, I would appreciate if there was more, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I love passing off the clientele that I don't vibe with onto
And
other
it happens,
photographers.
right? Like, not everybody's gonna like you.
Yeah.
And even like for the creative people, not everyone's gonna like your style.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But and for you, Julie, like you said, maybe it's just you that they don't like, and that's okay. Like, you're not meant to like everybody.
Yeah.
But it would be nice for you to have someone to be like, actually,
Yeah.
go down the road to so and so. We all do it.
I think this is a better fit for you.
Yeah.
And that's just it, right?
Just
Like,
love it.
sometimes it's just not the right fit.
Yeah.
And like, even when you go to a lawyer's office or a specialized doctor or something, like, they always call you in and say, we need to have a pre-interview to see if it's the right fit. And like realtors, like, and maybe it's not the right fit, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's a hard one though to pass up. Like when you're, a small business owner and you're trying to make a name for yourself, and you don't know what your year is going to be like. So how do
Yes.
you set those boundaries, right? Like you know, if someone's going to steal your energy, you don't want to work with them, but also you kind of need that paycheck, right? So it's hard, really hard.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, at least for me, it was, I'll take anything I can get.
That's what I was doing
Right?
the first year too.
Yeah. And now it's more like I can be a little bit more choosy. Although I still don't really turn a whole lot of people away. There's the occasional, like, can you make me a book cover? I'm 100 years old and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, here's a publisher. Go see them.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be a struggle to not be able to just pass, right? You're going to have some energy suckers, right? And that's not good for your mental health.
No, I've got lots of, salt in itself is quite cleansing and clearing, so it is good. But I've got like tuning forks and things that I do to kind of clear energy sometimes.
Oh, really?
After somebody leaves, you're like,
Yeah.
take you and your fucking energy out of here. With your forks, go fork yourself, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Fork off.
Send that energy out of here.
Work yourself. That reminds me, your code word is. I feel like there should be a drum roll.
Salty.
There it is.
Salty.
There it is,
Speaking
folks.
of salty.
Write it down. Don't forget it. And if you missed last week's, I'm not telling you. You have to go listen.
Shit. I go listen.
You didn't listen to Tracy's episode?
I did. Of course I did. I love Tracy and Daryl. Sinister Speed Co.
Yeah. You got the swag on today.
Look at all the cat hair on it too. To
Yeah.
make a true lesbian rating.
Yeah, thanks for bringing cat hair in my place. Love it.
We talked about this next one too a little bit. Let go of your inner perfectionist.
Yeah, that's hard. That's really, really hard. I have a hard time doing that. If I'm not perfect at it, then I'll just quit it completely. Like, it's hard to just be like, I'm okay at this.
I think it also ties into knowing your worth, right? Like, I know, Jenny, I know that you struggle with that, with knowing your worth.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be totally honest, you don't charge people enough.
Yeah.
And Lucy and I have talked about that too, about how like you need to be charging more, but maybe you just don't understand how good you really are.
It's hard though when it's your it's also something that you love so much. Like photography is like, it's like a hobby. I freaking love it so much. It's hard to charge accordingly for your time because you don't feel like
you're working.
You don't feel like you're working. Yeah. So I know we've had this conversation before and just
but even with your tattoos, right? Like you don't charge people enough. Yeah. And that can also play into your industry.
Yeah.
Right? Like you'll have other players in your industry who are like, that bitch is charging like
she must not
almost half
herself.
as much as we are, and that's undercutting the industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Or she doesn't value herself. Or Nicole Clark, who I think you both know, she had episode 4, is a very well-known business person and business teacher in this town. And what she told me was one of her students was starting a bookkeeping business. And I forget what the exact number was, but basically they were saying like, oh, I'm going to charge like $30 an hour. And Nicole's like, what? $30 an hour?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say hello to you for $30 an hour. And he's like, oh, okay, so like maybe 20. And she's like, no, like maybe 60.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
If I hear that you're charging $30 an hour,
Yeah.
I'm going to wonder what your credentials are.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
if
yeah.
you know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
Because that isn't the industry standard.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And I think it's even harder in the beginning as a business owner. I know for sure I undercut myself and didn't know my worth.
Yeah.
And took, a brand package I used to charge $700 for, and that was way below the industry standard. Way
so
below.
then everybody's looking at you like you're this new kid on the block. What a dick.
And a lot of people took advantage of that, probably not even knowing, like maybe didn't phone around and see what other people are charging. But
Yeah.
But now that I know my worth a little better, it's I can charge what the industry charges.
Yeah.
And if people don't want to pay that, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Go here instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, in the idea of letting go of the inner perfectionist, one thing I like to do in the tank, and one thing that got me to owning a float tank studio, I'd go in there and I would imagine myself hosting floats, right? Like I would visualize, well, what do I want Ogo Float to be? What do I want to have around me? What do I want surrounded? And I would visualize like the plants that was in my space, and just everything, and walking a client through a float, and what all I was going to say or things I didn't want to say, right? And just visualizing it helped make it a reality, right? So you can dream perfection.
That's
visualize
true.
and dream perfection, right?
That's true.
But settle for good enough.
Yeah, and I think that's so, like, I have a lot of type A friends who are control freaks, self-admittedly, right? I'm probably one of them.
My own friend.
Right?
Can't stand Sarah
You
today.
jerk. That, when you are a business owner, you do have to have a level of control freakiness in you.
Yeah.
But also being able to let go of the small things. Have you ever read that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff?
No, I don't think so.
Like,
there's the subtle art of not giving a fuck. I've read that too. That was a good one.
Yeah. It's a tiny little book. It's only like 4 inches by 4 inches, just this little book. And there's a whole series of them. There's like, Jenny.
I know. I go straight to sexual innuendo. You say 4 inches and I'm not picturing anything weird.
Anyway, there's a whole series of these books, these Don't Sweat the Small Stuff books that are, there's like Don't Sweat the Small Stuff in golf and Don't Sweat the Small Stuff in whatever. But there's one that's just Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Yeah.
And of the few books that I've read in my adult life, by far the best one.
Cool.
It just is. So, for example, I used to golf a lot, so I read the golf one, and it was like, when you get out on the golf course and it's windy as fuck and you just feel miserable, like this is going to ruin my whole game, and then it starts raining and whatever. Instead, you switch your perspective to, oh, this is a challenge now. What am I going to learn from this? How do I shoot my ball in this massive windstorm?
Yeah.
And make it go where I want to go, and like challenge yourself, right? Yeah. It's just like flipping that perspective, but
totally. What is the lesson in this? I try to ask myself that. I'm more mindful of that now this year. What am I learning from this?
Yes.
What does this mean? What is the universe trying to tell me?
Yeah. Fucking universe.
People that hate when the universe comes in. I knew I was going to get you.
I hate it. But I'm not dying on that hill or anything. It's just not for me. Anyway, going back to like being a control freak but that ties very well in with being a perfectionist, which is, it's hard for a lot of people, right? Because most of the time, if you are an extreme perfectionist, it's probably because there's some other parts of your life that you can't control. So you're overcompensating in whatever it is that you're being a perfectionist about, right?
Totally. Yeah. My fiance, for one.
Oh, poor Lucy. Just a Lucy bashing session over here. We love you, Lucy.
Yeah, we love Lucy. I love Lucy.
Everyone loves Lucy.
Oh, man.
Next one, it says, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, hey?
That is a really tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you're critical of everything you fucking do.
It's really hard, like I said, to take a compliment. Like, I'll deflect the shit out of that. Like, okay, moving on.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about you.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about me. Get that off of me, right? Yeah. Yeah. No.
Well, and that's a practice, you know, like, I mean, something I work on in the tank every time I'm in there, probably, right? It's a practice to continue to be kind to yourself.
Just say thank you.
You probably are a very special situation of a person where you get all these opportunities to work on yourself.
You'd think I'd be
with
better.
That tank.
You think I would have had more shit figured out by now then.
I think that you've improved a lot from what I've heard.
It intrigues me I wonder sometimes what my life would be like if I hadn't discovered floating, because I'm much less of an asshole now than I was before.
I've heard that.
What did you do before? Like, what were you up to before?
I worked in offices and secretarial stuff, and you know, being a perfectionist, I was good at it, but it didn't exactly fuel my soul.
Yeah.
So
you didn't realize how much of an asshole you were until you weren't one?
Well, I mean, sometimes. I mean, I knew I was being an asshole, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Right? And then as I started floating and realizing more about myself and just growing more compassion for everything around me, like the environment and the everything. Yeah. And it just gave me a broader perspective, and it changed the way I definitely stopped being as much of a dick. So it's good.
So when you say that you knew you were an asshole and you just didn't care, did you, because I have another friend who has that same, Holly, that same kind I feel like I just have to like say her name in every episode.
We're calling people out.
It's next week's code word.
Holly like knows and is working very hard at this, but knows that she can be an asshole to people. She has no filter a lot of the times. But she is working on it. And when what I wanted to ask you about was, when you say you don't care, do you really not care? Like, is it like, do you feel something?
For me, a lot of, like, I look back at, you know, like picking on my sister, or like, you know, in high school, there was times where I was like mean to people under the guise of, oh, but I'm funny. So if I'm making people laugh, then it's okay. And it took a while to realize I don't, even if I'm making people laugh, I don't want to make anybody else feel bad, you know, at their expense.
Julie, were you a bully?
I wouldn't say bully. Again, I thought I was being funny, but looking back, I feel like there's definitely times where I would say I have been, for sure. And come on, I've got a little sister who's not a bully to their little sister.
Right. That's very true. But it sounds like you've really grown from and shifted your perspective.
I think so. I like to think so. I think I'm a better person than I would have been if I hadn't have found it. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Agreed.
Yeah. And something that sets your soul, right, on fire.
Absolutely.
Like something that you're passionate about. You're not going to be passionate about, doing what you were doing before, the office stuff, right? And you're making somebody else money. But now everything you put into it is just coming right back to you. So there's some satisfaction in that, right? And it's a huge reward. And then it just makes you feel good all around. So yeah. Then you're not an asshole.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can still have asshole moments.
Oh, yeah.
Reserve the right.
And almost sometimes you have to be an asshole, right?
Absolutely.
Especially as a business owner. But so one thing that they've written in my research, it says being kind to yourself simply means changing the way you talk to yourself in your head by practicing positive self-talk. Not only can it help you become less stressed and anxious, but it can also help you build the courage to do things that will bring you greater rewards. So true, right?
Yeah, totally.
And that's the thing that I struggle with is that self-talk.
Yeah.
Because I just don't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the thoughts I had when I was reading this, something that kind of resonated with me was maybe I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm smart enough to figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's a good point.
Yeah, there's plenty of things I haven't done before, but I had to do them first one time, so I figured that out, and I can figure this out.
Yeah. I think, but with imposter syndrome, you're thinking, what if somebody figures out that I don't know how to solve this problem before I can actually solve this problem? So like, that you can, you just don't know how long it's going to take you to solve this problem, right? So being called out or somebody finding out suddenly that like you're not as good as they thought you were it's fucking scary.
I think it's important to know too that you can't possibly know everything about everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
and talk to people who do. Like you said, lean into your the competition or the people around you who are in the same industry. That's what I found really helps is spending time with other photographers that I really respect and love their work, or we have similar styles and stuff, or whatever, just with how they run their business, how they, their interactions with their clients and stuff like that. So it's learning from other people is huge. Like lean into your competition. The people that you're worried about finding out about you, like talk to them.
Which in and of itself is a really hip way to do business. Because like back in the day, it was like cutthroat. You don't talk to your competition. You don't. I mean, poor Julie has no competition, but
Well, no, but like
but like
in a neighboring town, somebody was setting up a float tank, and I was so happy
That's
to
true.
consult with them and help them make the best float tank possible, because I don't want crappy float centers anywhere. Like, it doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
So it benefits me and my entire industry to help that person be the best they can be.
definitely. And like I've had a few designers come in here and be like, hey, like thinking of starting my own thing, and I'm like, come in, sit down on the comfy couch, let's talk,
Let's chat,
right?
Yeah.
And it feels good to be able to give somebody the advice that like you've had to learn the hard way, and they're gonna have to learn the hard way their own things too. But if you can help somebody rather than be like, fuck you, get out.
Yeah. That whole competition thing is not my style.
And that's a very traditional old school way of doing business, and there are still businesses out there who think that way, but like us kind of modern younger business owners, maybe not even younger, but just the new age way of doing business is to be
Kind.
friendly competition, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Help
I get
each other
super
out.
inspired when I'm hanging out with other photographers.
Yes,
Like,
and I've seen that when I've been
that's
out
when I
with
do
you.
my best stuff. Like I was doing a tattoo with the guy who owns Magic and Flow, and he's a photographer.
Oh, what?
And
So jealous.
Like at the end of our tattoo session, he said, let's go do some weird shit. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's go do weird shit. Because you get the coolest stuff that comes out of that. Like you just different perspectives and just two artists just jamming off each other, right? And you get some really, nobody can see my hands moving right now. But like,
They're waving around like jazz hands.
I got jazz hands. It's my magic fingers. I had to make it weird.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
That's just you though.
Well,
But
I like to continue to remind myself that I'm still a work in progress. Like I say, like I'm less of an asshole than I was, but I have more assholery I could ditch, right? I'm gonna get better, and I'm gonna continue to improve, hopefully.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this isn't where it doesn't just end here. I hope not. I'm gonna get better. Yeah.
And it's always like I'm always trying to learn, right?
Yeah.
If you just tell yourself that you need to just learn all the time,
Yeah.
take a lesson from every conversation, from every person you meet, from every grocery store you walk into, like what is the lesson and what can I learn here?
Just reflecting is
And
huge.
just constantly being better and bettering yourself, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I wanted to say too, Jenny, like we've been out socially a couple of times and I've seen you where you're like, you're in party mode and we're having fun and we're having a good time. And then another local photographer is sitting nearby and your whole persona switches.
Does it?
You're just like fucking laser focused on that person and like tell me all the things that you can tell me and like you're no longer in party mode when you're talking to those people. Even though you're probably like half cut, you can just shut that off and be like,
shut up and listen.
Let me feed off you.
Yeah.
You're like
finally listening to my mom after all those years. Just shut up and listen. I'm telling you this for a reason.
What do you call those things that like live on sharks? Those they're like they like just hitch a ride on sharks.
I don't know.
Parasites?
You just call me a fucking parasite.
Yeah, you're just like a parasite. You're just like, let me leech off you.
Give me all of your knowledge right now. Let's do this.
But that's good though, because it means you want to better yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Jenny, take number 6.
Track and measure your successes. To help show yourself that you're actually doing well, keep track of your wins in a private document. There are a lot of different ways to track these successes, and the metrics you use will depend entirely on your job. If you're a blogger, you might keep track of your post's monthly average page views and watch them go up or compare them to the team average. You might also keep a separate tab to paste kind words people have written to you via email, Twitter, blog comments, and so on.
So my business coach coaches me to record wins of the day.
Yeah.
I write it literally down, WOTD, in my daily journal.
Yeah.
And I just write down, even if it's like, I ate a healthy lunch today. And it has nothing to do with business. It was a win.
Yeah.
And I admittedly have not done it for a few months. Sorry, Chris.
But gonna edit that one out, or are you gonna keep that?
No, we'll keep it. She likes to call me on my bullshit. I have a folder on my computer and in my desk.
Yeah.
Called Chris the Hard Ass. That's her name, Chris. So she likes to get on me about these things. But is this something that would help the two of you?
I think it would help me. One thing I know that I need to work on is asking for reviews. Yes. And that would really help because I think I have maybe 2 reviews. Oh, right? Shit. I know. And Lucy's always on me for it too. And you don't, I guess that's the imposter syndrome where you don't want to ask because you don't want to know if they hated their pictures or they hated their experience with me, right? It's like that little tiny voice that's going, what if there was something they didn't like? And then it's actually in writing out there for everybody to see. So I'd rather just no news is good news. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't fucking write anything just in case you have one little bad thing to say.
Big time.
And I feel like, I don't know, like, could you please write a review? Like, you just feel like
I will write that review.
Needy.
As soon as we're done.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I go and I write reviews and and I look at reviews and stuff. So why am I not,
So if I came to you from Graphically Hip and said, hey, Jenny, would you mind leaving me a review? Yeah. Would you feel that that's me being needy?
No, I wouldn't. See it. I'd be like, I'm helping out here. This is awesome. I want to see you succeed and I want other people to know how good you are.
And that's exactly how other people feel.
Fuck, eh?
Yeah.
Just got me again. But
I totally understand what you're saying. I could not ask for a review for that exact same reason for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then just in the beginning of this year, I sent out a mass email to everybody on my mail list. Yeah. There was 400 people on that mail list.
Yeah. Wow.
Saying, hey, would you mind leaving me a review? Yeah. And I felt good about it.
Yeah. It's crazy because I got an award for best photographer.
Fuck yeah, you did.
But I don't have any fucking reviews. So it's like,
and so in my head, I was always like, well, maybe it wasn't just good enough service that they chose to go and write a review. Like it wasn't outstanding, right?
Yeah.
But that's often not the case. Like people just have busy fucking lives and they don't think about it. People who aren't business owners don't understand how much a review means to a business owner.
Yeah.
They just don't get it.
No.
So you just sometimes just a gentle push.
Yeah. Hey.
And the way you word it can matter too, right? Like it doesn't need to be, hey, like this timid, do you
Sorry to
mind
bother
leaving me?
you on your
If you don't want to, it's totally okay. You can run me over with your car.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for asking, right? It's just,
Don't mean to put you out. If you get to it today, maybe
Yeah.
another time.
Yeah.
Next month if you have some time.
but it does help to even give a bit of a firm deadline on it. Like, hey, like trying to build my business. Do you mind leaving a review by this date?
Yeah, yeah.
And that gives people like a cutoff time and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Something that my business coach always says is use the words help and share.
Okay.
So if you say like, could you help me grow my business by leaving me a review if you were happy with what we did?
Sweet. Yeah.
Even if it's just pressing the 5-star button and clicking submit. You don't have to write a big long thing about,
Yeah.
although that is awesome too. But like,
Jenny helped me take my clothes off and took pictures of me. I'm a boudoir photographer, just so people know what it is. It's not like
she took my clothes off and
it
then she
wasn't a
shot
corporate
me.
gig, yeah. Jenny shot my kids,
Oh my God.
and then I hung them.
Julie, do you have any way that you track and measure your successes?
I'm a big lister, right? Like I make the to-do list and I'm always like listing. And one thing I have noticed lately is like it's always the same size. If I scratch one thing off, something else comes on. So
Right.
like it's kind of a little daunting sometimes, and I would like to find a different way to kind of track some of this. I thought about the jar on your fridge, and every day you find like you're saying the win of the day, and you put it in there, and then you can look and see the jar that's like, oh look, I did all those cool things, and you can see it filling up. And so that was one thing I thought of that I might pick up to try and account for that too.
Yep.
And sometimes if I'm doing stuff, and then I'll look at my to-do list and I'm like, oh man, I just did all this stuff that wasn't on the to-do list. I'll write it on that to-do list just to cross it off.
Yeah.
I feel like accomplished, right?
Crossing off
I
shit
did
on a
it.
list
I
is
swear
so
I did it.
awesome. Yeah.
It's really satisfying. So
Do you have you listened to the last episode?
Not the last one yet.
Okay, so we talked about the Post-it challenge. And the Post-it challenge, I'll just say it again for anyone who hasn't heard the last one, is where you every day, well, not every day, pick a day and grab a sticky note package and a pen, and every time you start a new task, write down that task on a sticky note and put it on your desk or put it on your wall or wherever you want to put it. And the idea is, at the end of the day, you just look at all of the things that you've accomplished. And it was Holly who told me about this. In her case, it was an exercise to figure out what tasks she could take off her plate and give to another team member or to an eventual general manager, should she hire one, etc. So you can kind of categorize them like these are admin tasks and these
Delegate
are
that shit.
whatever tasks,
Yeah.
right? Because as a business owner, we just do so many different things in a day. Like I feel like if I haven't done this challenge myself because I feel it would be very overwhelming to every time I start a new task, write a Post-it note. Like that would just, my day
You
would
need
probably
somebody
be
to write
twice
your
as long.
Post-its
Yeah.
for you.
doesn't sound very environmentally friendly.
No,
I'm
it
just imagining
doesn't.
Post-its everywhere.
It doesn't. And there is a Stickies app. Like
Yeah.
I have a Stickies app on my computer too. But why I bring this up is because maybe you could use that to write down your wins instead of your tasks. You could just write down, oh, this was cool. Stick it on the wall. And then you, like you said, put it in a jar at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, a lot of paper wasted, but or maybe it is like a virtual sticky note that you just keep in a folder, and then you can one day open it up and look
Write
at
it down, record it, all that, right?
Yeah.
Another thing I wrote down on tracking success is to recognize your own expertise. Like you say, we can't be an expert in everything, but whether it's painting or photography or, even amateurs that have fun doing it, they might be really good at it, and so just finding or playing guitar,
Yep.
whatever it is that you do really well, if you're feeling impostery, just remind yourself like, oh yeah, but I know that drum solo or that guitar solo.
And set your goals based on that too, right? Like in the beginning, I was trying to be like other photographers, and that was my goal, was to be as good as this photographer or as good as this photographer. And then I changed that and said I need it to be more specific to myself and
Yes.
just me as a person, and what's going to make me a better photographer besides comparing myself to that person. Again, comparing my weaknesses to their strengths, right? So just setting a goal, like taking 10,000 pictures that year, or you know what I mean, learning a new pose a week or something like that, or just getting comfortable with my prompts and posing and everything, and or learning a new skill on Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever, right? So making my goals more specific to myself and not comparing to other people, just trying to stay in my own lane, basically, right? So I think that really, really helps in just becoming better for myself, not for anybody else. So
definitely, at least for creatives, identifying your specialty and your like style is huge.
Yeah.
And like especially for the stopping comparing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you could compare yourself to the best photographer in the world, but that might not be what your style is.
Yeah, totally.
You could just know that, oh, well, like fucking Ann Geddes or whoever is like super, I don't know, famous photographers, but like so-and-so is like super famous because they're a great photographer. I want to be like that, but maybe they shoot fucking pictures of houses and you're like, that's not my jam.
Yeah. And it's good to have those goals. Like they say that, the majority of people who have imposter syndrome are very successful people because they are such perfectionists, right? Like they're always striving and they're doing well, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's reflecting big time on what you've done good. I'm
kind of excited about the next one. Talk about it with a mentor and your manager. This is one that resonates with me because, I'm in the float industry. There's not that many of us really. So there's, X amount of people that have a lot more knowledge than I do. But when I see people just starting out, it reminds, for me, more important than talking to a mentor sometimes is talking to somebody at the bottom of the ladder, because I'm like, oh yeah, I do know that. Oh, I do know a lot about that. Oh, I take for granted how well I know the water chemistry or how to turn over a tank or, what parts of the components of the filtration systems. Yeah. And when I hear somebody just starting out and I'm like, oh, you don't know that? Of course they don't know that. They haven't learned that yet, right? Yeah. And so I get a lot of personal validation from talking to helping other people that are in a similar situation, but and then just reminds myself that oh yeah, I know some shit.
That's really cool when you can jam out with somebody in the same industry and you leave that conversation going I fucking kept up. I knew what I was talking about. Yes. That felt good. Definitely. That helps with the
I kept up. That's such a powerful way to say it. It's cool and slangy, but it's it is I kept up is important.
Yeah, for sure.
And it does make you realize what you do.
Then I didn't have to just sit there and nod and smile while they were just spewing out shit. I knew what they were saying and I could engage in the conversation and yeah.
And it can help, like Julie said, to be able to teach what you know to someone who doesn't know it.
Well, you learn shit that way too, validating. Right? You sometimes, you learn from teaching. Right?
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a famous quote that says something like, if you don't know it, teach it.
Right.
Or if you don't know something, teach it or something.
Or those who don't know, teach.
Yeah. Or I think it's those who can't do, teach or something, or don't. Yeah. Anyway. But definitely when you teach something, you learn a lot about the thing.
Yeah. And yourself. Yeah. Holy shit, I did know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and even with the floating, sometimes I've got somebody helping me out from time to time, and things that seem super obvious to me, but aren't obvious to everybody else. I don't really care for the word common sense, but practical wisdom, right? And then I there's certain things I remember watching a kid clean a mirror, and he didn't know how to clean a mirror. He just used a wet soppy rag, and I remember being like, how do you get to this age and not know how to clean a mirror? It just blew me away, right? We all have our different levels of what's practical wisdom.
Yeah. Yes. Practical wisdom. That was a good one. That blew my mind too a little bit. I like that.
I do like that too, because when I used to work in safety, I was taught in one of my safety courses that there is no such thing as common sense. And I understand what they were trying to say, because what's common sense to me is not common sense to you necessarily.
Right. It's not that common.
Especially when you're talking about cultural differences and the way they do safety in other countries and even other cities and other companies and types of companies. But there is a certain level of common sense. You don't walk into your work and slap your boss in the face. That's pretty common sense, right?
Yeah. No matter how many times you want to do it.
Right. That's pretty common sense. But I do agree with you that practical wisdom is probably a far better word or way to say it.
I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah. I'm going to practice that practical wisdom.
Yeah. Practical wisdom. You're going to practical wisdom all over the place, Jenny.
I put the dumb in practical wisdom.
I don't know. How do you come up with this shit?
I don't know. It's just a freestyle first thing in the morning.
I figured for sure you would be showing up here completely hungover.
Oh, there was an opportunity for that last night, but
Oh,
I reined her in.
You adulted? Wow.
Wow.
Are you hungover, Julie?
I mean,
I saw you put your hand up.
I made it here.
Fuck, if I knew you were going to come in hungover, I would have.
Everyone comes. It's like 8:30 on a Saturday. Everyone comes in hungover, except
You
me.
did say that to me the last time we talked about this.
Yeah.
I said I could be hungover. And you're like, everybody is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good to know.
I'm the only one who ever isn't, because I'm the only one that doesn't drink in my friend circle. And anyway.
Well, it is what it is.
Yep. What do we got next on this list here? Sorry, Steve.
Yes to
I'm
new
like
opportunities.
totally shuffling papers.
that-
He's gonna hate me.
When you're presented with a new opportunity, it's important to distinguish between the voice in your head saying you can't do it because you're not worthy, and one saying you can't do it because you have too much on your plate. The former is your imposter syndrome speaking. Yeah, I use that excuse a lot. Like I'm just really, really busy. Really, really busy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a lot on my plate, and sometimes I just don't think I'm just going to be good at it.
And is this when someone asks you to do something outside of the realm of what you're
Yeah.
comfortable with?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also learned, when I first started doing boudoir photography, I thought that it was going to be, well, Jenny, the lesbian, wants to shoot half naked women. And I was like, fuck, I shouldn't do this. I should not do this. But in now putting myself out of my comfort zone and embracing that and doing it anyway, I've become really successful at it and have had some really cool opportunities and had people say, it's because you're gay.
I was just gonna say,
and it's because you're a woman, I feel comfortable with you. And
Yes.
we've had a lot of clientele say that, and that was the reason they came to us, or came to me and Lucy, like Lucy does the makeup and stuff. So,
well,
yeah.
a girl knows how a girl likes it. Am I right?
yep.
So it only makes sense.
We're talking about pictures still, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Totally.
Cool. But yeah, I think just that was a perfect example of that. Just stepping out of my comfort zone and going against what I thought. Yeah, just not listening to that inner voice and saying that people aren't going to come to you because they think you just want to look at them half naked. And that's not it at all. It's knowing how I feel about my body and watching partners and women in my life go, oh, I hate this about me. I hate this about me. And me being able to say, like, I wish you could see what I see. And I would say that so many times to the women in my life, like, I wish you could see. And then I was like, holy shit, you can see what I see. I'm just going to take a picture of it. And then that translated into a business, which made it successful that way.
It's probably tough doing boudoir photography because especially women have so many hang-ups. Remember that picture I took of you, Julie, and when you were being sworn into JCI, and you're like, oh, I hate when my knees are like that.
Well,
because your legs were like perfectly straight.
Oh,
I was like,
no. They were my knees back. I'm hyper flexible.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
My knees were
They
like
go
bending backwards.
Oh,
and
like a
that's
flamingo.
It's
Yeah.
a bad
bend
stance. It's like
yeah.
not good for my physical health.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, I look silly. I mean, I look silly,
Oh.
but that wasn't so much it. It was more like I shouldn't be doing that with my legs. I should
Yeah.
be operating my body better.
but the point is that you immediately went to the negative.
Yeah.
And everybody else who looked at that photo was just like, awesome, we got a new member, and she was being sworn in. And you were just like, oh, I hate when I do that with my knees, right?
Yeah.
And you probably see a lot of that in what you do.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
boudoir
imposter
photography,
syndrome can be right into like body image and stuff like that. So the fact that like I can help people with a portion of their imposter syndrome is huge. It's awesome. It's super cool. And sometimes our photo shoots are only 45 minutes long, but you see a transformation that goes from like 0 to hero in 45 minutes. That's a short amount of time to somebody to come in not wanting to take their robe off, or just wanting to just super uncomfortable and no confidence, and then they leave with the most confidence. And I'll always show pictures on the back of my camera, like, this is what if it's a really good photo. And then they know that they can trust me from the very beginning throughout that photo shoot. And you see that self-esteem just start to grow, and giving like confidence in a woman is the sexiest thing I find. It doesn't matter what size you are, what shape you are, what you're wearing. It's the confidence that you wear. And I think the fact that we're able to help people with that is fucking cool.
Do you have like techniques for when people come in like super shy and unsure of themselves? Like, do you have
I usually
just give them a
spew
beer
off,
or
like,
what?
No, I'm just me, and I get right into it.
You're
all the jokes and just whatever,
Yeah.
and a lot of self-deprecating humor about myself. And but we cry with them. Like, they'll look at their picture sometime and go like, that's me. And that's you. And then tears come, and then I'm a sympathy crier. So the minute somebody starts crying, like, I'm on it. Don't worry, I'm with you. And then they're like, okay, I like this bitch. Like, she's just, she's just like me. Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, totally. And that's a huge thing, to be able to show them that they can trust you. And we know what our angles are. We know where to put our lights, our shadows, everything in strategic ways, and highlight what they feel is their best asset.
Yep. Asset. Julie, do you see a lot of people come in with trepidations about floating, and like probably not wanting to get naked in a public place, and like you get fully naked in that bitch?
I mean, it's not a public place; it's my house. But yeah, I mean, that
which
is one
even
thing.
That's another part of it, right?
Yeah.
This is somebody's house that I'm now getting naked in, and like,
Where's
do
the
I
cameras?
trust this person? Yeah, for
Just
sure.
Like you, I also spend, my job is getting people naked in my
Yeah.
house, and
Yep.
I know.
it's weird, right? But yeah, definitely. Of course, I have to work through a lot of things with people that have apprehensions, and sometimes I veer away from talking about the apprehensions just because, like, why do I want to talk about the negative things?
Yeah.
But it's important, and so
It is
it's something I do want to kind of make a little bit more predominant. Maybe my social media coming forward is let's talk about the let's talk about claustrophobia. You like
It's not
Yeah.
scary. It's not as scary as I thought it was going to be. Like,
No.
when you reached out for me to do your photos and you said, come do a float, I want you to experience this
Yeah.
first. I was right away, I went to claustrophobia, like being buried alive. And I mean, there's ways around it too, right? Like,
absolutely. I mean, and I've done some reading to find that like 3 to 5% of the population are like truly claustrophobic. But if you ask me how many people tell me they're claustrophobic, it's like 75%.
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Like, it is
Right.
amazing. For the amount of people that tell me this, I have no idea how the tanning industry ever existed.
Right.
Because
right.
tanning beds are very small. Float
yeah.
tanks are quite a bit larger.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know why people jump to that so quickly, but I like to remind people too, there's far more room to like stretch out and be free in a float tank than there is in a vehicle. So
Yeah.
when someone's like, oh, I could never do that, I'm like, oh, did you drive here today?
Yeah, you're
Yes.
right. There's way more room in that tank than in my front seat
Totally.
or my back seat.
Totally. So yeah,
Absolutely.
but I've learned how to talk to people about claustrophobia in a different way than I did before, because, at first it was kind of like dismissive a little bit, and then I know what I just said was quite dismissive, and I get that. But, but when I have somebody with me, I'll ask them, okay, so can you tell me about the last time that you felt claustrophobic?
Yeah.
And usually it's like, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. But hearing them out, I've just learned that they're not claustrophobic. They just want to be heard.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
once they've told me their stories, told me things that, a lot of times I hear like MRI, and I'm like, okay, well, the difference here is like there you're strapped to a table. It's loud. It's, you're not in control of your situation. But in a float tank, like you're the only one in there. I leave the door open, close. Like you're in
Yeah,
control.
I like that I
you
can do
take
that.
control.
Yeah, you can put that noodle in the door and then take it out when you're ready. And I think that's the thing, like having that little bit of control left and just being able to say when I'm ready to turn off all the sensory, then I'll do it, right? But I love that you want to hear people out, and that you recognize that, like, that's why people are telling you this, because they just want to be heard. And I think that's super important. And I think with all of our industries, like, it's the customer doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. So it's just showing them. And like, that's what I do too. Like we do that, right? We make people feel comfortable and be able to trust us. And then they know that they're going to have a good experience and then leave a good review.
Yeah, all the reviews.
Yeah.
Do you find maybe that the people who have these sort of, I don't know if excuses is the right word, but it might be excuses.
Trepidations.
Yeah. Are people who tend to maybe have control issues?
Maybe. I mean, specifically about claustrophobia, there's a lot of different aspects to it, right? For some people, it's like the actual size of the space. For some people, it's the dark or the air quality, or there's a bunch of different aspects. And so it's not all the same story. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think when you have a more open mind, you're willing to just try it without coming up with a million reasons why. Right? Whereas if you're trying to control floating, the major bonus of floating is letting go of all your senses, and that can be very hard for somebody who has control issues, right? Like, you're telling me, I can't hear anything. Well, it's not that you can't hear anything, there's just nothing to hear. I can't see anything. That's a big one. You like
I left that little floaty light on most of the time while I was in there, because I needed to just know that I need to know where my escape route is all the time.
Fair enough.
That's a
Like
good
you can
point,
always
too.
just close your eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
want the
But I
lights
mean,
on.
but that is one reason why the float tank is different. So I just have to, closing your eyes is nice, but like, you know what it's like when you're in bed and someone turns on the light. You can see through your eyelids, right?
Yeah.
So in the float tank, it's just another aspect that makes it much different than chilling out in your bathtub, like with the lights off.
Definitely.
Totally.
And it's dark in there. Like if you have the door fully closed, it is dark.
Yeah.
It's not just like turn your light off in your bedroom dark. You can't see your hand in front of your face.
Yeah. That's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It's a very unique experience to be able to let go of those controls, really. Like
where else
resets
can
your
your nervous
do that?
system,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Because we're always taking in all this information, like everything we touch. Like, when was the last time nothing was touching you?
Yeah.
You know, like your clothes, the bed, the whatever it is. There's always something touching you.
Yeah.
But in the float tank, it's just nothing.
Nothing.
It's just one of my favorite parts about it.
Absolutely. And our last tip is embrace the feeling and use it. And I think this is like what you were just saying, like lean into it, right? Says it's really hard to get rid of imposter syndrome completely, especially if you've had it for years and years. The fact that hugely successful people like Maya Angelou and Don Cheadle feel that way after all they've accomplished is evidence that it can sometimes be a lifelong condition. That's why the best angle from which to tackle your imposter syndrome isn't getting rid of it completely, it's stopping it from hindering your success. I think that's very important to acknowledge. Like, you may just be stuck with this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But it's
name
like-
it and claim it and just deal with it,
Yes,
right?
name it and claim
Name
it.
it and claim it and talk about it, I feel is the best thing that's helped with me.
Taco about it even. Let's have some tacos and talk about this shit.
That's where things went sideways last night. Was the tacos at Neighborhood. We went for tachos, and sorry, I just love them so much.
I mean, and I think it's okay to feel stupid sometimes.
Yeah. Admit it. Just be honest and say, like, I don't 100% know what I'm doing right now, but we're going to roll with it and something cool will happen.
Well, and that was a conversation that I had with Holly where I was telling you guys that she has no filter sometimes, right? And she just loves to argue. She's there's a personality test, and I'm probably going to butcher this word, but I think it's called Enneagram. She's an Enneagram 8, and she identifies with that every conversation pretty much that you have with her. Oh, she's like, well, that's because I'm an 8.
Yeah.
But anyway, if it's a free test you can take online.
Yeah. I'd like to do
I think it's free. I might have paid like $2 for it or something. But anyway,
Well, you just said it was free, so you're
she
I need to borrow $2.
shit, I gotta watch what I say on here. But one thing that she tells everybody is she's the type of person that looks for an argument or a conflict. Like, she wants to go to battle all the time. She's always ready.
Oh, cool.
And what I said to her was, like, aren't you afraid of like being wrong and looking stupid? And
Yeah.
she's like, nope. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it.
Good for her.
But like for me, I'm not going to battle with anyone unless I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because then
I'm
I
gonna do my
have a
research on that
rebuttal,
battle.
right?
Yeah. It's like
And
chess.
she's just like, nope, let's go right now.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? You want to argue? Let's do it. You want to talk about the Pope? Let's argue about the Pope. Like, there's just always one in the chamber with her.
Really, hey?
And she's working on it too, but it is who she is, and we love her for it.
Yeah. Embrace it.
Yes,
and if
embracing
people don't
it.
love you for it, then they can frig off, and
Yep.
you'll find people who do. Right.
But the important thing is she's not afraid to look stupid, and that's huge. Like, how hard is it to? It is hard to look stupid.
I do it a lot.
Yes, well, you especially do it a lot. Just kidding. But you do it in a way that's like makes people laugh.
The reason I do it is because I would rather make fun of myself before somebody else does, and that's the imposter syndrome, right? It's easier for me to be self-deprecating, and I can definitely make fun of myself better than you can. So I'm going to come with it.
That's a good point.
It reminds me of I like the Pitch Perfect movies, but Fat Amy, she's like, no, I'm taking it back. Like,
Yeah.
if I say it first,
Because
then
stick bitches like you are going to call me behind my back, right? That's what she said.
It's true. Like, the best way to combat a bully is to just own it.
Yeah.
Like, if they're like, "Oh, you wear brown shoes," you'd be like, "Fuck yeah, I wear brown shoes."
Yeah.
Because
and
what
they're not
can
brown,
they say
they're
back
fucking
to
taupe
it,
assholes.
right?
So, like, don't tell me. I can burn myself better.
Yes.
They're dog shit brown. Fuck you.
Because what can they come back with after that?
Exactly.
They just have to shut up and walk away with their tail between their legs, right? Like
exactly.
you just, and I try and I've told that to both my kids. Like if someone's picking on you, just be like, yeah, that is a thing.
Yeah.
Just own it.
Yeah.
They have no rebuttal to that.
No.
So yeah, I think embracing this.
Yeah.
And just like we're doing on this podcast today, talking about this, and now we can go forward and just be like, yeah, I have imposter syndrome. What?
Yeah.
What of it?
Yeah, exactly. Let's go for some tachos and talk about it, right?
And talk about it.
Right? The more it's out there, the more comfortable you're going to be with it, right?
And the more you might help somebody else who's suffering and maybe didn't have a name for what they were feeling before.
Totally.
Like,
I hadn't heard about
listening
this
to
till
podcast.
last year when I started with Clubhouse. I don't know.
Yes. Oh my God.
The Clubhouse. I've always
talked
got
about it on Clubhouse
the AirPod
too.
in my ear, and I'm just like
Yes.
listening to people. Like, yeah, I love Clubhouse. I can get back on that because I just haven't been. But
I deleted it a long time ago. But when I was on there, I was talking about imposter syndrome, and I got into what do you call them, rooms?
Yeah,
got into a room with some people, and the topic was imposter syndrome. And
we could have been in the same room.
I went. We could have
We
been.
were in a room together.
Maybe. And so I got up on the stage or whatever you call it, and I said my piece, and I said, like a lot of my imposter syndrome comes from that I'm not as formally trained as other graphic designers.
Yeah.
Like I did go to graphic design school, but I didn't get a degree and do the like 4-year program and stuff that a lot of designers did. And this one girl, it just so happened to be that she was also a graphic designer who did get a degree. And what she said to me was, I went through all the school and did all the things, and then I kind of like, I can't find a job doing what I want to do, and now I've kind of lost interest in it.
Right.
And she said, so what you might feel is your shortcoming is actually like people wish they could do what you do.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, damn. And that really shifted my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's something I say to my kid all the time too, like when she's having, trouble at school or whatever. I'm like some people wish they have what you have.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
She's like, oh, I hate my body and I feel fat. And she's like,
yeah. Oh God,
80 pounds soaking wet.
When I used to wear a t-shirt over my bathing suit when I was like 12, and now is the time I should be doing that,
right? But like when you're young, you just have all these uncertainties, right? You just don't know who you are, and I get that. But really, those words for me was a big game changer.
Yeah.
Like, there's someone out there who wishes they had what you have.
Yeah, totally.
Or could do what you do.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
for sure, man.
So yeah, Clubhouse was a pretty cool.
It was cool.
Pretty
Have
cool
you been on the
place to
Clubhouse?
I do not know what you're talking about.
It's just an app. It's like I think they kind of called it like podcasting but live.
Oh yeah. It's just like us hanging out right now, but like you just chime in with your phone. You put your hand up if you want to talk. Like you click a little button to put your hand up. You don't do it like I'm doing right now that nobody can see.
And it's actual voice talking.
But you
not
can
typing.
be in rooms with like 300 people and be talking to like people, like there's celebrities that host these rooms, and you have an opportunity to sit there and talk with them, or mentors or whatever, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's rooms that are just topics.
Yeah.
There's one room that is called Town Hall, and it's just a room where you go and learn about how to use Clubhouse.
Yeah.
But there's any topic that you can think of, they have it in there, and you just go and talk to other people who have been there and are doing the thing. And
you're not alone.
Yeah.
You are
it's a really
alone.
cool app, actually. I don't know why I deleted it, but there's also like some kind of nasty people on there too that are rude to others and that kind of thing. But
yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So you guys, we did 1 hour and 40.
Holy shit.
Wow. You
Isn't
can cut
that
all that.
No, not cutting any of it. This is a long form podcast.
I did have one last thing that I thought of. For me, I love that floating is so obscure. I love that it's something unique that not a lot of people know about. And I think if you're feeling like an imposter in different areas, like find something that is obscure, that you're going to be the only person that's going to know a bunch of that. Like I can pretty confidently say, like, in Penticton, I probably know more about floating than anybody else in this town right now.
Agreed.
Right? I can
Agreed.
probably pretty confidently say that. But if I go to the float conference, now I'm a baby float center owner, right? So, the people that you're around changes, and but the obscurity of it for me it makes it cooler because I know that very few people are going to be as interested in this thing as I am, right? It's something that I can specialize in that nobody else is going to.
And that's got to help huge with the imposter syndrome, right? Like it gives you the confidence, right?
Yeah. Like there's probably a lot of rooms where I couldn't hold my own, but I can talk about floating.
But it warrants saying, and we've said this on the podcast before, that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're not in the right room.
Right.
So while you do know more than anybody in this town about floating, it's beneficial for you to go to these conferences and feel like you don't know everything. For
sure.
Right?
Of course, yeah. Like I very frequently talk with other people in the industry and of all levels, and absolutely, I wasn't trying to brag by saying it.
But it's important that anyone listening to this podcast today, fucking call Julie and go have a float. Like that's not an ask. That is I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Do it.
Book a float.
And don't just book one.
Yeah.
Get the 3-pack.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yes. Book multiple floats and get good at it.
And I've always said I didn't want this podcast to be about boosting our own personal businesses. It's inevitable as it comes up in conversations about being in business. But I really feel in this case that
well, and if there's people not in Penticton, like Google your nearest float center because there's going to be one semi-close and check it
absolutely.
out. Like,
yeah. And I think it's a really beneficial tool as a business owner.
Absolutely.
As for anyone.
It's freaking super beneficial to somebody who's got imposter syndrome. Go have a float and like check in with yourself.
And ADHD, right? Like, how awesome. When you get good at floating, how awesome will that be for your ADHD?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not real good at it right now.
Not right now, no.
Bouncing off the walls and stuff.
Plastic bag. Who likes cheese? Just like all over the place.
Who likes cheese?
I don't know.
I like cheese.
I love cheese.
Everyone likes cheese. Well, no, not everyone.
But that's trying to shut that off when you're ADHD to the max. Like, you got to do it a few times.
Yeah.
For sure.
Julie, book recommendations.
Oh, yeah. You asked me that. A book that I read semi-recently. I'm more of a podcast listener or like audiobooks and stuff.
Let's do either one or both.
No, that's fine. The one that I think is relevant to this conversation too, Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. It just talks about the titans of each industry and like people that are outliers in their industry that have gone on to do astronomical things despite challenges they face. And I found that really interesting. I love Malcolm Gladwell's books. Talking with Strangers was another one I really loved. I love the different perspectives that he offers, and super love those. Those would be great.
So just so our listeners know, I have started putting a link to the book recommendations right on our website, on our podcast page, to purchase them on Amazon. And if you do that, I get a kickback.
Cool.
So I will link those on the day of your episode. Actually, probably a few days before. And then, if anybody wants to check out those books on Amazon, well, yay, we love Amazon. Go buy them from our website.
Yes.
Any favorite podcasts you want to mention besides the obvious Joe Rogan?
I love to talk about someday. I haven't listened to Joe in quite a while. My favorite, honestly, Malcolm Gladwell also has a podcast called Revisionist History, and that's awesome. Like he just takes these stories and flips them over and just totally changes the way you think. And I absolutely loved it. There's one, I won't get into it about sad country music, but it's just fantastic. I really like Malcolm Gladwell's podcast as well. Business-wise, I did enjoy listening to like The Pitch for a while, like people coming in and pitching their business ideas. It's like, Dragon's Den podcast style. And that was kind of interesting. I liked that for a bit.
Cool. I've never heard of that one. That would be fun. Neat.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This has been an absolute pleasure talking about this.
Yeah,
I have never had anyone to talk to about this before.
We should do it more.
This is like a real treat for me. Get
a bigger room and we'll just get more people in here.
Yeah.
Right?
Eventually.
Get those donations. Smash that donation button.
Yeah, smash the donation button. Oh my God.
Get some more mics. And
while we're smashing buttons, smash that follow button too, because that helps. See, that helps. That's what my business coach says. Use the word help.
That helps.
Helps us podcasters, us lonely 100 downloads an episode podcasters to hit that follow button. Plus then you just get notifications when the new episode comes out.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about watching our social medias to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to repeat your code word?
Should I?
No, you don't have
that
to. I was just
fair?
curious, just in case.
It could have changed by now. Like, it's been so long. Change the code words to make sure people were listening.
Yeah. I agree.
Right?
Oh.
Code word and then a
How
new
about
code word.
how about this? We'll do a bonus entry for anyone who has listened this long.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking by.
Let's come up with a new code. This will be a bonus code for a bonus entry.
Smash the button. It'll be
Smash
like a
the
code
button.
sentence.
So we're like,
Smash the button. That's all I'm thinking about now is smashing buttons.
how about we just make it button?
Button.
So the previous one, I'm not going to say it. Yeah, the previous one, because if you've listened this long, you've heard the first one. Previous one was salty, and this one is button. So that's your bonus
Salty
code
button.
for the
Nothing like a
bonus
salty
code.
button.
You don't know anything with salty buttons, do you?
Perfect.
Holy shit, we could go a different way.
It's going to be a whole
Not
different
just
podcast.
explicit. This is going to become super R-rated. Smash that salty button.
Oh my god. Okay.
Okay.
That's,
There we go.
yeah. Thank you very much, Jenny, for being here and co-hosting with me.
Yeah, thanks for
That
having
was
me.
awesome. And Jenny has agreed to come back and do more co-hosting in the future.
Yep.
Julie, I would extend that to you too if you ever want to come co-host with me.
Let's do
Sounds
it.
fun.
Let's have at her. Yeah. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you both for coming here
Thanks
at
for having
8:30 in
us.
freaking morning
On a Saturday morning. Let's not forget that
yes,
the
a
sacrifices that
Saturday.
we're here.
for free.
Are we going to have drinks now? Like, what's going on?
Julie's got floaters coming.
Oh, God, those floaters.
And I think Lucy's coming after.
She must be. I'm shooting Kevin. Kevin.
Oh, yes.
Kettle
Yeah,
Valley
you gotta go
Memorial.
do shit. There's Lucy on my phone right now. Okay. We're wrapping it up.
Thanks
Thanks
for having
again,
us.
everyone.
Thanks.
Stay hip.
Woo.